Jameer Gibbs to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. You can't cover that man one-on-one. You just can't do it.
He drives, lobs to JD for a jam.
You play real good, you start. You don't play as good, you work your way back in. It's the American way, except America has gotten soft. But that is the American way. That's the way it works.
This is the 6'6" King
Jameson Williams, he's got it! Touchdown, Lions. Now it's Larkin with a burst of speed. He scores! Gives the United States the lead for the first time tonight.
There are certain games, there are certain moments, I think even in a playoff series where a team looks at it and says, you know what could have been. I think we experienced that with the Pistons, didn't we, against Cleveland when you were up 9 with 2:40 to go in, what was it, game 5, Andy, I believe? I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are feeling the same thing last night. They were up 22 with 7:40 to go in New York. 22 with a little bit more than 7.5 to go. And so they're down. So they're up 22. The Knicks come back. I mean, it was a 10-point game with 4 minutes to go. And it's like they forgot how to play. I mean, they just let Jalen Brunson do whatever the hell he wanted.
No, it was insane, man.
That was insane.
So like full like transparency here. Last night at 10:25, I sent my friends a screenshot of the score. It was 93-76, Cavs in the lead. And I said to my friend, I was thinking to myself, he said what people think about in Syria. I thought to myself, like, I said, what could have been? Because I was like, if this is the Pistons, who knows? They might have been doing this to them. Yeah. And then, the Griffins were on last night, so I was watching like a stream for them too. And then I came back and checked the score, and I literally couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe they were losing the game. I didn't understand that was even possible.
The amazing thing, and welcome everybody. I'm sorry. What Andy and I oftentimes do is we just start talking because this is what friends do, and you just start talking about sports. So welcome to X's and Bros on a Wednesday morning. We're brought to you by Michelin as well. It was overtime. They needed overtime, and it was 115-104. That was the final. Here's what I always wonder, what a game like that does. This is the psychology of coaching and being part of sports. And I've said this for a long time. I've said this, I don't care what coach I'm talking to. I don't care what sport it is. I don't care what level it is. But especially at the professional level. There's a part of you that needs to be a psychologist. You're not only a coach, you're an extension of a dad to a sort of. I mean, you're handling players similar to the way you may handle children. This is not disrespectful. It's just you can't coach everybody the same way. You can have the same rules, but how you apply those rules might be a little different. All right. And you're also a psychologist. So when you see, and I sure didn't mean to start with the Cavs and Knicks, because how many of us truly care? But it's historic. Okay, it's the largest comeback, since at least 1970 in the fourth quarter. When you see a team go on a 44-11 run to end the game,
I couldn't believe it. I don't even understand how that's possible, man. I mean, that looks like it was game, set, match point at that point.
Yeah, I mean, how do you blow a 22-point lead? Anyway, with 7.5 minutes to go, but that's what people are going to talk about. So does the coach, Andy? Does the coach look at it and say, "All right, we built up a big lead. We're good enough. We're good enough to do this." All right. On the road, we built a 22-point lead. Or is it doesn't matter how much we're in the lead, our guys choke down the stretch? Because that's what's going to be talked about. In Cleveland this morning, they open up their microphones, or last night doing the postgame show. What they're saying is they're going, you know what? We choked it away. And I get why people would come to that conclusion. it was just amazing to me that that something like that happens. Jalen Brunson, by the way, and I know this is a guy who I think a lot of Pistons fans, they roll their eyes at. I don't know who Pistons fans are rooting for, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, it was like, you wanted to say like, screw Cleveland, but then you thought to yourself, like, remember the Knicks last year. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And of course, Jalen Brunson, and everybody talked about how clutch he was and how he's a flopper and so on and so forth. He had 38. I mean, he was pretty impressive at times. Karl Anthony Towns, everybody said to me during the Orlando series that Jalen Duren's got to be a Karl Anthony Towns-like player. He had 13-13. He had 7 turnovers. So we can nitpick on a game-to-game basis. There are moments last night where you're looking at it, you're saying, man, losing to this team, you could understand why. Then there are other times where, as New York's making the comeback, you're saying, how the hell did you lose to this team? You know what I mean? It was just an amazing performance last night by New York in a tough spot. I suppose if I looked at it from a Cleveland standpoint with that psychiatry situation that I just referred to, look at it from a New York standpoint. It required a 22-point historic comeback, a 30-8 run to end regulation, a 44-11 run to end the game. Then, if that's the case, we can climb any hill, or we needed a miracle to get out of it.
Well, I feel like a lot of people would have said after the game, if that would have finished that way, that they would have said, well, New York was sitting down for a while and they had to shake off the rust. I feel like that would have been the settlement.
That's
so
a good one.
They're probably going to use that for themselves too, I would imagine right now.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah, shake off. It's the rest versus rust. This will be used as a rest versus rust example, right? Cleveland jumped out. Look at how good they were. They built a 22-point lead. New York was rusty. Cleveland got tired. Cleveland got tired because they played that 7-game series with the Pistons. That's a good way to look at it too. Anyway, in case you missed it, that was it. 115-104 in overtime.
Yeah, and really quick, like I said, I was watching the Griffins. If people missed that, they did finally win a playoff game. And if Wings fans need something to look at, the Michael Brandt knee guard goal to win the game, it was fantastic. So you guys should search
good.
that one.
What was the final score?
They won 4-3, and they're down 2-1 in the series now. So still back against the wall, but it was good to see them finally get a win at least because
that's over Chicago.
Yep, correct? The Wolves. Yep, yeah. They definitely outplayed them in game 2 and just had a bad break in overtime. So it'd be cool to see them take it back to Grand Rapids Saturday night. That's for sure.
Okay, so when is game 4 then?
It is Thursday. Thursday night. It'd be at 8 p.m. because it's in Chicago. So
tomorrow night in Chicago. All right, that's good to know. Thank you for that. Tigers fall to the Guardians 4-3. Detroit 0-for-6 with runners in scoring position. They left 10 men on base, including the bases loaded in the 8th and runners at the corners in the 9th. So they are now 20 up and 29 down. They're 7.5 back of Cleveland. They have lost 4 in a row, and they've lost 12 of 14. I'm not going to try and tell you that every team goes through it because not every team goes through this type of 12 of 14 stint. Really tough. Game 3 of the 4-game series tonight. Tanner Bybee for Cleveland. Tigers are going to go with a bullpen game. I'm going to give you some numbers that will leave you shaking your head. Somebody had complained to me yesterday that we talk too much NBA. So my response to them was, do you want me talking about the Tigers for 3 hours and how bad they are right now? You want me to talk about the Lions' schedule a little bit more? How bad the Red Wings? I mean, come on, man. He just wants to talk Michigan basketball and how they won a championship. It's like, hold on a second, dude. We'll get to more of the Tigers. We will get to what Trajan Langdon had to say at his press conference yesterday. All that and more coming up here on a busy Wednesday morning on X's and Bros. Glad you're along for the ride. Brought to you by Michelin's Well.
Huge here for all the ABC warehouse locations in Michigan. Now, if you're looking for the best prices on TVs, furniture, appliances, mattresses, and more, you need to go to abcwarehouse.com. You can shop there and also shop in person at all ABC Warehouse locations across Michigan. For the one close to you, go to abcwarehouse.com. Best deals on TVs, appliances, furniture, and mattresses at all ABC Warehouse locations in Michigan.
Rod Stewart returns to Soaring Eagle Thursday, September 3rd. The Soaring Eagle Summer Outdoor Concert Series with special guest Richard Marx. Tickets start at $71 and are on sale now at the box office and etix.com. One last time, Rod Stewart with Richard Marx, September 3rd. SoaringEagleCasino.com.
Celebrate the soul of folk and Americana. The Lumineers Automatic World Tour comes to Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort Sunday night, July 19th, with special guest Josiah and the Bonnevilles, part of the Soaring Eagle Outdoor Summer Concert Series. Tickets start at $67 and are on sale now at the box office or online at etix.com. Showtime 8 p.m. See the Lumineers live with Josiah and the Bonnevilles, July 19th at Soaring Eagle Casino, SoaringEagleCasino.com.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to my good friend Shep. The Huge Show is coming up later today at 3, right here on the Michigan Sports Network.
So we had action late in the game, and there's an execution and game within the game. They did a really good job of even when they conceded out to those runs that see a bat afterwards. That is the pivotal one, and they made the most of their opportunities. And we didn't. In terms of execution, you give yourself a puncher's chance. You give yourself as many opportunities as you can, but those guys are hard. Cade Smith at the end, Gaddis, we've seen really, be really good. You need one thing to go your way if you want to win a close game like that.
AJ Hinch, after his team's 4-3 loss last night to Cleveland, a lot of opportunities there. Welcome back, X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9, throughout the great state of Michigan. Detroit since May 4th, okay, batting $122 with runners in scoring position. This is 14 games. This is not a small sample size. Since May 4th, batting $122 with runners in scoring position. Last in baseball by 35 points. The next worst over that stretch is the LA Angels at $159. This team is 12 for 98 in that stretch after struggling again in that area last night. What do you do? Let me give credit where credit is due, because I have complained about this team's defense before, and I think I'm right, but I don't want to be. But I think I'm right about it. There were 4 plays that I thought were pretty damn good. I'm not saying nobody else in Major League Baseball could make the plays. I just think they were good plays. Veerling in the 9th. Zach Short with a drawn-in infield in the 8th. I think it was. Maybe it was the 9th. Hao-Yu Lee playing second base, rolling all the way to the second base side and throwing the runner out. And Kevin McGonigal made a nice play in the hole. That's what I got for you. You want positivity? Fire away. Give it a shot. I don't see how you find much with it. I read another article yesterday, and it left me shaking my head, because I was at the gym yesterday, and somebody had asked me about the Tigers, and I was talking to them about this very same thing. Here's what we do as a society, and I don't think it's just Tigers fans, it's not just baseball fans, it's not just sports. What we do is we are fed a narrative over and over and over again, and then we just succumb to the narrative. And this is exactly what this article indicated. And I'll give you an example here in a minute. Hold on. Dallas, by the way, the Dallas Mavericks have fired Jason Kidd. He had 4 years, $40 million left on his deal. I don't know. I mean, during his 5 years, they went to the Western Conference Finals, missed the playoffs, went to the NBA Finals, missed the playoffs. Is that fireable worthy? It appears it is. That's fine. I don't care. I have no skin in the game. NHL's Western Conference Finals in hockey begin tonight. Colorado with the Avs hosting Vegas. Do you remember? This is a rematch of 2021, which was a second round battle. Colorado won the first 2 games. They were up in the third in that game. Vegas scores, comes back, wins all 4, and goes on to roll in the postseason. And then, as Andy had just mentioned, Griffins win 4-3 over Chicago, trail 2-1 in the series. Here's the Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question of the day. Are you watching the Tigers? No, it's too frustrating. Yes, now that the Piston season is over. I did until this brutal stretch. Every game, I'm a loyal fan. Vote as often as you want at XB Mornings. Andy has tweeted that out. I will retweet it coming up here on X's and Bros. All right. I was reading, like I oftentimes do, a number of different websites yesterday. And I saw an article from Sports Illustrated, SI.com. You used to have the magazine. Now you got to go online. I get it. Nobody's got those magazines anymore unless it's Pottery Barn. I don't know. Although I did see somebody reading a paper yesterday. I was like, wow, that's old school. Good for you. If you could bring back one thing that's old school, what would it be? Would it be the paper? It's not a bad one, you know. Some people like the physicality of having the paper, turning the page and so on, instead of clicking and rolling down and everything and having the head go down and all that other stuff. So I get it. So there was something very honest, innocent, pleasurable about sitting on your porch on a Sunday morning, hearing the birds chirp and reading the paper while drinking, for some people, coffee. I don't drink coffee, but whatever. Anyway, so I'm reading Sports Illustrated, and this headline caught my attention. It said 5 reasons the Tigers have been one of the worst teams in baseball. I'm like, okay, let's see what it is. Because for me, I mean, it's been the bullpen's inability to hold leads. It's been the Tigers' inability to drive in runs in key situations, runners in scoring position, runners at the corners, advancing a runner, stuff like that. All right. It's been a porous defense. Those are the 3 things that come to mind. When I ask you, fork to nose right now, you tell me, what is the biggest frustration for you regarding the Tigers? Go. Why do you think they've been unsuccessful this year? Go.
For me, it's
What are you going to say?
Their offense with runners in scoring position, like you said, is probably the top thing for me again. But it's right there with the starting pitching not being where it was supposed to be at. Well,
the starting pitching. That's interesting. Okay.
I feel like Framber's had more bad starts than you would have thought. You're not getting anything out of Tarek Skubal. I feel like the back Jack Flaherty literally never know what you're going to get any night. And most time it's bad. It's just
how awful. Seriously, how awful is that?
It's crazy.
No, really. I mean, that is as bad as it gets. Don't you think?
Yeah.
The Jack Flaherty situation is as bad and cumbersome as it gets. Because let's face it, you need him.
Yeah, they don't have any other option but to keep rolling him out there. So I was just gonna say, like, they probably do, but you know what I mean. Like they just, and then Ty Madden, who they bring up to try to replace some of those things, gets drilled in the arm with the ball. I don't. It just seems like the starting rotation just has had nothing. I mean, Casey Mize like the one bright spot, and even he had to miss some time. So, you know.
So you think it's the starting pitching?
That's one of the first things that comes to mind for me, at least.
Okay, all right. In addition to with runners and scoring, what about the defense?
I mean, man, you know that question. It's like there's so many things you could give because this team does so many things bad right now. Like it's hard to like pin it on one thing because they just seem like a bad team to me.
Yeah, I agree. It's really frustrating. Look, here's the other thing. There's certain times when batting average doesn't matter. But as a team, as a collective team, I think it's fair to say it can. They're batting right now 250 with runners in scoring position. Okay. So what they're not doing is they're not advancing runners at all. And that's another frustrating part. Okay. You need somebody to come up clutch, and they just have not been able to do that.
Yeah, meanwhile, you watch the team across the diamond last night just do it perfectly again, moving people over, manufacturing runs in a close game like that. It's just it's how Cleveland wins games.
And look, let me be full transparent here. I am not a small ball guy. I don't believe you bunt guys over every time they get on first or second. I think it's a wasted out. But certain situations do call for it.
Yeah, the fact that it's like never used for the Tigers is what bugs me a little bit. But
yeah,
not to say that's like what they preach or how their lineups build or anything like that. But it's
might be a little hyperbolic that it's never used. But I get what you're saying, especially when you see a team, at least in the first 2 games of this series, use it. We'll explain on the other side. This is X's and Bros. We're glad you're with us on a Wednesday morning.
Dad, here's 3 reasons why we should go to the Meyer LPGA Classic for Simply Give.
Okay.
1, you can spend Father's Day weekend with some real golfers.
Ouch.
2, it's a good time for a good cause. Foodie fun, family fun, and fun helping feed neighbors in need.
And 3.
3, do you really need another reason?
Join the fun June 18th through 21st at the Meyer LPGA Classic for Simply Give. Learn more and get tickets at MeyerLPGAClassic.com.
Huge here for my good friend Josh Garvey and the team at Dorn Mayhew, West Michigan, one of the world's top accounting, CPA, and business firms. Their worldwide headquarters are in Troy, Michigan, on the east side of the state. And Josh and his team connect with all the sports fans and businesses across Michigan. They bring you John Beeline on the Huge Show. They bring you Lomas Brown during the Lion season. They are a top shelf team when it comes to growth and understanding what their clients need. And mix in when we do the Beat Huge contests or the NCAA March Madness brackets. Thank you, Josh Garvey, for what you do for the Huge Show and the Michigan Sports Network. Simple and easy. Just find Dorn Mayhew on all the social networks or just Google Dorn Mayhew and find out how they can help your business. And again, a special thanks to Josh Garvey and the Dorn Mayhew team in West Michigan.
Where are you watching the Tigers this year? Superfly Hayes here for Detroit Sportsnet. Sign up like the Huge Show did with the Detroit Sportsnet Tigers Wings package. Subscription info at tigers.com and MLB.com.
there's a reason Andy's as knowledgeable as he is. When he brings up the sacrifices, I didn't realize this until I just looked it up. When he brings up sacrificing players' line, I said, I'm not one of those guys that believe it's a wasted out, but it's not that there's no place for it. I think it just depends. Do you know how many sacrifices the Tigers have this year?
I would say 0.
You would be right. I don't have any.
I'm not going to act like I knew that before, but that's just from watching them enough. I never see them move a runner over ever. And that's one of the most frustrating things to me. The only time is when that's why I said, as much as Labor Torres isn't I get it. He doesn't do enough probably for what they're paying him and stuff. I just feel like he at least hits a ground ball to the right side sometimes and moves somebody over. That's what you're asking for as a Tigers fan, because that's how little they do that.
Yes.
That's the problem.
Agreed.
That's the problem.
Agreed. The hard part for me is they are in a lot of different 20, 16, 15, depending on, what statistic you're looking at. That's where Detroit is offensively. All right. If you're looking at pitching, yeah, they're about the same. If you're looking at ERA and WHIP and so on and so forth, you look at relievers, ERA, yeah, around 15, 16. So middle of the pack, you wouldn't expect. Then you look at their defense and you're like, ooh, 25th and a -6 in defensive run saves. That's a problem. And then you look around and you say, how is Cleveland getting it done when their numbers are very similar, except for sacrifices, but very similar? It's an inability to win close games too. That's part of it, Yeah,
I mean the Tigers I think they have 3 or 4 losses at least in the 9th inning. I don't want to quote myself on that, but I know that they have at least 3 or 4 blown saves.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I would buy that. I mean, they've got more than that in blown saves.
Yeah,
they've got more than that. Yeah.
I mean, 8th inning on, I know it's really bad because they had to say. I remember there was a stretch there where they were getting walked off left and right.
It just how many people? Seriously, how many people in this lineup do you trust?
Right.
It's not up to us to trust him. It's up to AJ Hinch to trust him. But how many people do you truly trust? And then how many people in the bullpen? They have 9 blown saves on the year.
That insane. Yeah,
that is the 5th most. Washington has 12. The Athletics have 11. Pittsburgh has 11. The White Sox have 10. Detroit and the Angels and the Yankees and Toronto all have 9. And yet those teams have, for the most part, better records than the Tigers, who, if not for Kansas City losing back-to-back games, would be in last place all by themselves. Instead, they share the dungeon together in the AL Central. Anyway, so SI, I had mentioned the 5 reasons, and then we're going to, 7 o'clock hour, we'll get into the Trajan Langdon situation. I gave you some of my reasons. I'm thinking, okay, it's got to be your relief pitching, because I mentioned the 9 blown saves. It's got to be the poor fielding. It's got to be the lack of clutch hitting. Of course, injuries are part of it. I'm not going to say it's not, but anyway, here's one. The very first thing this article mentions, and this is what I mean about getting hit over the head with the same narrative, because you got to believe it. Everyone is injured. Isn't an excuse as it is a reality. They bring up Skubal. They bring up Baez. They bring up Carpenter. They bring up Zach McKinstry. They bring up Gleyber Torres. They bring up Trey Sweeney. Who the hell misses Trey Sweeney?
Yeah, I don't. You're not actually watching the team if you're bringing his name up.
No. In all honesty, here's what they did. Let me take an injury report and just mention a bunch of names.
Put names in. Saying Trey Sweeney is absolutely nuts.
If this team is missing a guy who hit 196 last year, you've got a problem.
Yeah, it was pretty much a guaranteed out every time he came up, it felt like.
I am so tired of this narrative, and I wish people would actually learn and actually dive into some things first and foremost. You're talking about an injury to Zach McKinstry, who's batting 171. That's what you've missed? Your team is so bad, you've missed a 171 hitter. Your team is so bad, you've missed a 250 hitter in Javier Baez. Shep, he was an all-star a year ago. Okay, yeah. And he won a Gold Glove back when he played for the Chicago Cubs. Tell me something that he was doing this year that makes you go, oh, my goodness, how are we going to get over losing him? Parker Meadows, you're missing a guy who's got a slug of 333. No home runs, but you're missing him. Yeah, you're missing him defensively. Matt Vierling's pretty good defensively, too, in center field. Okay, it does add up. I'm not saying you don't miss any of them. They talk about Justin Verlander in the article. Justin Verlander has one start this year. Okay? Too many easy outs in the lineup. Oh, then they bring up McKinstry. So I thought you were missing him, though. Jake Rogers, Jahmai Jones, Dylan Dingler has been productive. Wenzel Perez has been slashing 162, 212, 467. Right. That should be ahead of the injuries. How many opposing pitchers are shaking in their boots when they see the lineup that Detroit put together last night? They did out-hit Cleveland 7-4. 7-4. 7 hits. Vierling, McGonigal, yeah, tough out for sure. Went 1 for 5 last night with a couple of punch-outs. Jahmai Jones walked a couple of times, struck out a couple of times. Dingler, averages now dipped below 240. All the people who want to compare him to Lance Parrish and Pudge Rodriguez and Bill Freehan better pump the brakes for a moment. Riley Green for sure. Surprised he was batting 5th, but AJ Hinch trying to get him in a position where he can drive in some runs if guys in front can get on base. Torkelson, who drove in a couple of runs, was pinch hit for later in the game by Cole Keith. Wenzel Perez, 168. How you lead, 204. I want to see how you lead, Shep. This guy, remember, we traded for this guy. This would be a really good pickup. This was the Phillies trade with Gregory Soto. Matt Vierling coming here. How you lead coming here. I'm not knocking the guy. I'm just saying everybody seems to be struggling at the same time. And then, of course, you got Zach Short at shortstop. And that's important because he's 0 for 13 now. It's really good that, you've got him in the lineup every day. Is that where you miss Javier Baez? Damn right. But you could have Kevin McGonigal there. He played third base last night. You see what I mean? McGonigal's at short sometimes. Then they play him at third base. And this is so easy for me to say. I'm not trying to be, I know more than this guy. That's not fair because I don't. I mean, AJ Hinch, it does have a brilliant baseball mind. He does. Being around a guy, seeing the things that he sees, reasoning for what he does, I completely buy into it. I don't always agree with it, but in general, I buy into it. Who's your long-term answer this question, Andy? Who's your long-term solution at shortstop or the left side of the infield, but more specifically at shortstop? Kevin McGonigal or Zach Short?
Kevin McGonigal.
Okay. Do you think Zach Short could handle third base?
I mean, probably, yeah. If he can play shortstop, yeah.
There's no question.
Yeah.
Then why are you moving McGonigal off short?
Still wondering why.
Why are you moving him over so you can have a guy like Zach Short who may not, when Javier Baez comes back, Zach Short will not be with you. Right?
Yeah, doesn't make any sense to me. I'm no argument.
So tell me why in the world is he playing shortstop?
No one knows the answer to that, and I don't think anybody still understands why they signed him, really. I mean, I guess maybe.
Well, no, I'm not talking about signing him. I'm talking about where you're playing him.
Yeah, I understand that.
The signing is a fair conversation too.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, why would you? I don't understand. I just don't understand it.
No, I don't. I don't know who does.
Put the McGonigal kid at shortstop and let him.
This is your chance to do that. This is your chance to play him every day there. I mean, I'm not saying they couldn't just do that anyway, but this like with the way they run their team, this is the chance that they could have to just put him there, leave him there every single day and see what he does until Javi comes back. And then, they're going to do what they're going to do. But I don't understand why you wouldn't just leave him at shortstop because, he is your long-term solution. So why wouldn't you just leave him
and
there?
just for reference point, before you go, Shep, you think you can just move people anywhere? Zach Short 2 years ago for Atlanta and Boston played 21 games at third base. You can play him at third unless they view McGonigal at third base. If they view him as a future third baseman, right? Is that fair, Andy? If you view him as a third baseman, then if that's the case, play him there all the time.
Yeah. No, for
Why
sure.
are you moving him back and forth, back and forth, back and forth? I'm not trying to be old guy and just put Alan Trammell and Ozzie Smith and Gary Templeton and leave them there.
That's not old. That's not old guy because anybody that plays baseball, no. I mean, if you're moving around, I don't know. I get these guys are levels ahead of anything, people that played in high school like me. But it's like, if you get moved around that much, I feel like it's gonna mess with your head a little bit. And like, Colt Keith, I feel you can see it with his defense a little bit with how many different positions they put him at. I'm not saying he was ever the best defender in the world, but like, gosh,
right? No, he's been a better defender than most people think.
Yeah, and
this is not.
And it's been challenging.
A situation where Matt Vierling moves from right field to center field. He plays right field when Parker Meadows is in there, and he plays center field when he's not in there. That was the plan all along for him. And Parker Meadows would be viewed as a legitimate guy to be on the team. The difference in this situation, specifically last night, is that if you view Kevin McGonigal as your future shortstop, the guy you're putting in place of him and moving McGonigal to third is not going to be on your team. You DFA'd him twice. You are not going to be on. This kid is not going to be on your team for an extended period of time, and he is not the future of your franchise. He is a fill-in role. You go to the supermarket, you either get a big basket or you get a hand basket. He's the hand basket. That's what he is. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. It's not as easy in baseball to manage or general manage with emotion. This guy's up. Let's keep him up here. He's playing well. This guy's down. Let's send him down to Toledo. You can't do it that way. All right? Certain number of moves required. Minor league appearances have to be, you have to have them available as a player. Okay? And you've got to give a player in baseball, and this is hard. It's really hard for fans to watch. You've got to give a player an opportunity to fail. How are they going to handle the failure? How long that failure is a really good question. How long do you let them go before you reel them back in? That's the hard part. That's where the baseball knowledge has to come into play. This guy's stuck in a 22-game hitless streak. Do I send him down? Fans would say yes. Many general managers would say you need to have patience with the player. Sometimes you got to get him off his feet. Sometimes you got to get him to have a different look. Set him in the lineup for a favorable matchup. Don't have him bat against guys who give him historically trouble. Last night was a good example of it. The reason Spencer Torkelson was pinch hit for with Colt Keith, according to A.J. Hinch, was, well, Gaddis comes in and throws a lot of stuff away from right-handed hitters. Torkelson has a hard time laying off that. So he pinch hits for him. Also understanding that Torkelson had driven in a couple of runs, but Torkelson had been struggling overall. So there's a situation where he's putting a player in a situation or alleviating that player from the situation that might give him struggles and a less opportunity to fail, because you're not sending him down right now. If you're going to send him down, you're going to have to send down a lot of guys.
Yeah, they don't. I don't know how many moves they could really make. right now
to
make
right.
him that much better.
That's the other thing.
Yeah, it's like
and let's face it, you and I both know this. There's nobody down there that's saving you.
No,
okay. They're not. No one's coming up and going, it's all right. I'm going to fix it all. Mike Trout, welcome.
Right, exactly. I was looking at their schedule, and if I'm correct, 'cause I've counted it a few times now, but I feel like a lot of people thought they'd have to at least get to like 85 wins to win this division this year.
No, I thought it was more than that.
Okay, but that's
89 last year, 92 the year before. Sure. I think it's going to take a good 88, 89 wins to win the division.
So to get to 85 wins even, they would have to go 65 and 48 the rest of the way.
To get to 85 wins, you'll have to get to wow. I didn't look at it like that.
Isn't it crazy to break it down like that? Like to think about it like that. I had to look because I'm like, okay, they're 9 under 500. Like, what would it take to even get to that? And that's like the most deflating thing to me. Is like just to get to that, they have to play that well, and they're at where they're at right now. So,
well, when people say and I hear this a lot, I would send this guy down. My immediate response is fair enough because he's struggling. Can you give me the guy you would bring up? And they can't. Because in Toledo, I don't know if people realize this, they're 22 and 23. Their best players are up. Erie is 20 and 20. As I said yesterday, Gage Workman was one of Toledo's best hitters. He's up here now. And it's been more of a struggle than a success story so far. Right? I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. The other things that the article brought up. Young talent behind schedule. Cole Keith, fueled by a 293 average, yet he hasn't homered the entire year and only has 6 RBIs. Spencer Torkelson, sent down to the minors once in his career, carrying a 191 average. Slower now. Then they got, what's the other thing? Not enough arms is what the article talks about. Jack Flaherty, Casey Mize, Tarek Skubal, Justin Verlander, Ty Holden, names they mentioned. They don't bring up that the arms that they do have been brutal. Like Jack Flaherty. That Framber Valdez has not been what you thought he would be so far. Those are some of the reasons that they give. If they actually followed this team and knew this team, they probably would have more reasons that we've already conveyed. All right, when we come back, we will dive into what Trajan Langdon had to say. Plus, we got to get to some of your texts. It's all coming up here on a Wednesday morning. This is X's and Bros throughout the great state of Michigan on the Michigan Sports Network, brought to you by Mitch Lyons Wealth.
Rod Stewart returns to Soaring Eagle Thursday, September 3rd. The Soaring Eagle Summer Outdoor Concert Series with special guest Richard Marks. Tickets start at $71 and are on sale now at the box office and etix.com. One last time, Rod Stewart with Richard Marks, September 3rd. SoaringEagleCasino.com.
Where are you watching the Tigers this year? Superfly Hayes here for Detroit Sports Net. Sign up like the Huge Show did with the Detroit Sports Net Tigers Wings package. Subscription info at tigers.com and MLB.com.
Huge here for the incredible Crystal Mountain Resort in Thompsonville, Michigan. If you've never experienced the mountain, it's unbelievable. They offer up 36 holes of championship golf, Betsy Valley, Mountain Ridge, accommodations, a ton of choices. Go to crystalmountain.com, see everything for yourself. One of the top spas in America. They can handle businesses, small groups, big groups, your buddies, the ladies, and more. Book your getaway now at crystalmountain.com. That's crystalmountain.com.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community. just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements. This center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact the Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
Van Andel Institute Purple Community is a grassroots fundraising network powered by the dedicated volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve human health now and in the future. When you raise funds through the Van Andel Institute Purple Community, 100% of the proceeds go directly to the Institute's research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's, as well as VAI's science education programs. Learn how you can get involved at purplecommunity.org.
Celebrate the soul of folk and Americana. The Lumineers Automatic World Tour comes to Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort Sunday night, July 19th, with special guest Josiah and the Bonnevilles, part of the Soaring Eagle Outdoor Summer Concert Series. Tickets start at $67 and are on sale now at the box office or online at etix.com. Showtime 8 p.m. See the Lumineers live with Josiah and the Bonnevilles, July 19th at Soaring Eagle Casino, SoaringEagleCasino.com.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, look, you're always going to I think you're always going to iterate your team a little bit every year to get better, right? No team is going to look exactly the same the next year that it did the previous year. Even if it's all 15 guys back, you're going to be different, right? For some reason, whether experience, whether there's an injury, whether somebody else got better and beat somebody else out. And so for us, it's always, if it's adding a person or just getting better internally, we're always going to feel like we get better. And that's the goal, is to be a championship contender.
Trajan Langdon, one of the things that he talked about yesterday in his press conference, talking about his team's opportunity to be a championship contender. Welcome back, X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9 throughout the great state of Michigan, and streaming live on YouTube, X, and on Facebook as well. We welcome your comments there. We've got some I want to get to for sure, and want to get to some of our texts as well. But Trajan Langdon feeling like, look, he was asked a lot of really good questions, and I thought he handled it really well. He's got a certain belief. This is not, I hope people don't look at him and say smartest guy in the room. He has certain things that he thinks his team can do, certain players who he knows or is confident in are going to get better in certain situations. And Jalen Duren is one of those. So we will get to that here in a moment. Let me dive into some texts, and let me dive into some things that are being discussed in the chat. If you follow us or watch us streaming live, like Kevin says, the most frustrating thing about the Tigers is the lack of offense. They are not hitting well at all this year. Injuries have been part of their problems. As we've mentioned, all right, we mentioned, yes, there are some hitting issues for this team. I happen to think that the defense is as bad as anything else. You are, by saying that, you're missing, it's obvious to look at the guys who are not in the lineup, right? If you're saying injuries are part of the problem. So, Kev, you're missing Javier Baez, all right, a 256 hitter with an on-base percentage of under 30. It's 286. That's what you're missing. You're missing Parker Meadows, a 250 hitter who has no power. And you're trying to tell me the difference to is Gleyber Torres, a 260 hitter who does get on base but doesn't have power. That's the confusing thing for me. I'm trying to figure out what individual who is hurt, besides Tarek Skubal, would be making the biggest impact. And you're bringing up offense, and you're bringing up 3 guys who have been hurt. I think they're important. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know that. Not like they'd lose 12 or 14, but it's not like they'd be winning 12 or 14 either. Matt Vierling can't get to the balls up the gap that Parker Meadows can get to. I didn't say he could. I think Parker Meadows is the best defensive player in the entire Tigers organization. But Matt Vierling does make some plays. He's really athletic. He's got a really good arm. He's got a better arm than Parker Meadows. I'm not saying he can cover the same ground at all. Some may say Max Clark can cover as much ground as anybody else. That would be thrilling to watch because I think Parker Meadows just glides his way. I think he's awesome defensively. What I'm saying is, from a power standpoint, and look, Vierling's not hitting really well either. I mean, he's hitting 217. But from a power standpoint, if that's what you're looking for, if you need some runs, Parker Meadows is not going to deliver a home run swing for you more oftentimes than a guy like Matt Vierling would. That's all. Via text, and then we'll get into the Trajan Langdon stuff. Shep, I'm glad I watched the Tigers yesterday. I didn't know Zach McKinstry was an all-star game last night until they brought it up. I think there's some sarcasm there. We've brought it up sarcastically as well. Happy for him, don't get me wrong, but, from an all-star standpoint, I don't know, man. It's it was a very unique situation, and it was very surprising. Let's put it that way. Shep, why are they unsuccessful? They're 1-1 player against pitch hit for yesterday in the 8th in a key spot. Not saying it's wrong, but that is why they were unsuccessful. And pinch hit for Z-Mac. Then Perez was allowed to hit instead. Pretty sad, Wonder Boy. I think because you can't pinch hit for everybody, you've got 13 position players. You can't pinch hit everybody. If you force extra innings, you may be in a situation. So I'm not saying it was right. I'm just saying you can't pinch hit for everybody. Wenzel Perez, I mean, who would you have had on the bench left last night if you pinch hit for him as well? Shep, this is a guy during the press conference after the season who mocked the fans and said, yeah, it's the same lineup. You guys all see the same lineup, but they will all get better. So it's not really the same lineup. Yeah, shut up. That's Scott Harris. He's referring to Scott Harris because that's what Scott Harris said. Just because it's the same lineup doesn't mean it won't be better. They were banking on just about every player advancing their skill set.
Yeah, you can't deny that. That is pretty much what he said.
Yeah, it is what he said. I don't know how he thought that bringing back the same crew, they were going to be better hitters. And then in spring training, when you see McGonigal earning it, you think you're even better than that. The problem is Perez has digressed. Torkelson hasn't gotten as good as he should. Colt Keith's power is gone. Dylan Dingler is fading. Yes, you have some injuries, and you have some other guys in Meadows and Veerling and Carpenter who have not progressed as well as they needed to in your eyes either. It has been outside of Riley Green and Kevin McGonigal. I get some people give Dingler a bit of a pass. Looked overmatched last night. Outside of those two guys, who are you banking on? Who do you feel comfortable with at the plate? I would say none. Shep, Trajan sounds like the fans buying tickets or getting gas going to the games. It's expensive, meanwhile, owners, forgive me, governors sell their franchises for $4 to $5 billion. And if you're Boston, you sell it for more than that. Just to be clear, I know what you meant by expensive and what they had to give up or get out. But you know what you have to do to win a championship. You have a superstar. Imagine Detroit not going to get guys after they drafted Isaiah Thomas or Detroit drafted Steve Yzerman. Both teams made a ton of moves after they were drafted. Well, that's a good point. Isaiah Thomas with Kelly Tripucka, for example, in the same draft. Did you like Kelly Tripucka? Dude could flat out shoot it. He could score. He was a defensive liability. They needed Joe Dumars. They needed Dennis Rodman. They needed John Sally. They needed a trade for Bill Laimbeer and a trade for Rick Mahorn. They needed all of that. And eventually they needed a trade for Adrian Dantley and a Mark Aguirre acquisition. Oh, and by the way, they traded for Vinnie Johnson. I'm not anti-draft develop at all. I would love every team, every one of my favorite teams, to be similar to that of the 1984 Tigers, where they draft and develop Trammell and Whitaker and Parrish and Gibson and Morris and Petrie and players like that. But you're naive to think, and I'm not saying this to you as fans, but anybody who is in the front office, naive to think that it's always going to be that way. Even that 84 Tigers team, they needed to trade for Chet Lemon. They needed to acquire Larry Herndon. They needed Darrell Evans. They needed Willie Hernandez. Not all of them were drafting and developing. There are different ways you can acquire. When the Tigers went to the 06 World Series, what was one of the bigger reasons? Kenny Rogers. They didn't draft and develop him. Make some moves. Not for moves' sakes, but you've got to make some moves to acquire the talent needed that the current guys aren't providing for you. It's as simple as that. We're brought to you this hour by our friends at Meijer.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Farrah's Coffee has been family owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Farrah's Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive boys and girls high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com.
season a couple days ago, but that doesn't take away from the amazing season that this group had. Going from 14 to 44 to 60 is an incredible accomplishment. 2 seasons and 60 wins and first place in the East. Incredible accomplishment for these guys. And I think they learned a lot about one another, learned a lot about each other. Going into the All-Star break, being the number 1 seed, and then coming out, I think was different. We went from hunting teams to being the hunted.
Trajan Langdon at his press conference after the season, talking about his team's learning curve during the year, what he hopes they learn, the growth that they've had. Look, all those things should be very boast-worthy. It's a compliment to the organization, to Trajan Langdon, to the team, to go from 14 wins to 44 wins to 60 wins and a division championship and a number 1 seed in the East. We can say they missed an opportunity. I think that's okay too, because many people feel like the East was wide open. With Tyrese Halliburton being hurt in Indiana and Jason Tatum being hurt in Boston and certain parts of Cleveland's lineup being out. Look, as I said before, and Orlando missing some key parts too. As I've said before, it's not like Detroit was healthy all season long. It's not like their best players every single night were in the lineup. Unless you think Javonte Green is their best player, because he's the only one who played all 82 games. Did you miss an opportunity? You could say so, considering your success against New York. I doubt Detroit blows a 22-point lead like that. And the reason I say that is because New York went after James Harden in game 1 on a regular basis down the stretch. Down 22, they said, Jalen Brunson, go to work. That guy stinks. He can't move his feet. He's bad defensively. And that's exactly what they did. And Brunson ended up with 38 in game 1. But at some point, too, you better hope that your team did learn those valuable lessons and apply them for next year, even though they may not get 60 wins.
Yeah, because I think either way, it's fair to say, like, no matter what side of that argument that you're on, if you the 1 seed, if you believe they're firmly the 1 seed or you don't, regardless, they got to a game 7 and almost made it to the Eastern Conference Finals and were the 1 seed. Like, this was an opportunity for them to go pretty, deep in this thing, I think, regardless of how you feel about that part of it.
Without question. If people truly believe, because this is what I've been told for a long time, that you have to pay your dues. You know what that's from. That's from the Pistons struggling to get by the Celtics, the Bulls struggling to get by the Pistons. That's what it's about. There's a roadblock. You got to figure out. It only takes pain, learning from pain to get through the roadblock. If that's how you feel, I've never been one of those people who believe that. I don't think you paint things with a broad brush in that regard. So I don't believe that. San Antonio's not experiencing it, at least yet. But if you do believe that, then you should understand that the process for Detroit is what it is. Last year, they lose in round 1, but give the Knicks everything they can handle. This year, they win a playoff series and then lose in a 7-game heartbreaking moment. I don't know if you necessarily adhere to that with the Tigers, since they won a playoff series 2 years ago and they won a playoff series last year, and you would think that would give them momentum last year to win more than one playoff series, but they didn't. It's not always linear. I say this all the time about sports. It's not always we're going to get better as we go. Sometimes teams take a step backwards. Hi, San Francisco 49ers. Shep, that was injuries. A lot of teams deal with injuries, man. It happens. Anyway, this team, this Pistons team, are you willing to give them the benefit of the doubt? Have they earned the benefit of the doubt from you? on keeping some of their young players together. And I think a lot of people may say it depends on the cost. Jalen Duren, look, we had Omari Sankofa on. He was at the press conference yesterday, and he's come out and said, look, they're going to do whatever they can to sign both Asar Thompson and Jalen Duren to long-term deals. Jalen Duren, based on his accomplishments and the fact that he's going to be a restricted free agent, based on what he's been able to accomplish as a player, warrant, you may not like it, but it's true. This is the way the NBA is. Warrants about a $40 million contract. It's not a max deal. The max deal is more than that. The max deal is closer to 50. I think the max is 47, 48. But it's a $40 million deal. Is that a tough pill for you to swallow? What the Pistons are basically telling you by this mindset is that they believe Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, and Asar Thompson are key core figures for this team moving forward. Now you've got to sprinkle in a lot of the talent that is required around them. You've got to go out and get a good shooter, and you've got to get easy for me to say, a stretch player. It doesn't have to be a stretch four. I know you want Victor Wembanyama. I know you want the second coming of Dirk Nowitzki. What you really need is you need a guy, and you got to be willing to part with some of your draft and develop guys. If you've got to get rid of Ron Holland, for example, or a Marcus Sasser, not that it would warrant a bunch, or a Danish Jenkins, or an Isaiah Stewart, to get a player of Trey Murphy III ilk. That's what I'm referring to. You're going to have to do that. Not just because you've got an opportunity, but in the East, but because he's also a young player and you'll be able to keep him around. You'll have to pay for him. Just let's all remind ourselves, before you start saying, I don't want to pay this much money for a young player. There's a lot of teams out there with the NBA the way it is today. You are paying big money for younger players. This isn't Major League Baseball where you've got control of them for 6 years, and when they hit 30, that's when they have that big kick at the proverbial can. It comes sooner in the NBA. First of all, you're drafting guys who they're getting to the league earlier, and they don't have that staple that is Major League Baseball and team control. That once they hit the majors and they play X amount of games, 170, you've got them for 6 years. And that's why some teams, like the Tigers, have decided to take those young players who they consider young talent and lock them up early. You may not always like it, but that's what they do because you're going to save money in the long run. Those of you who are the old school thinking of you've got to wait and play it out are the same people who will be bitching left and right. I can't believe how much money you were going to have to spend for this guy when he does reach that, if he does reach that aspect of the contract in Major League Baseball. I don't have a problem with certain contracts like others do, whether it be Cole Keith or Kevin McGonigal. Tigers have told you they're part of their long-term core. The Pistons are doing the same thing here. They're telling you, Jalen Duren, we believe in, because they looked at the 70-game sample size more so than the 14-game playoff sample size. And Asar Thompson is a guy we think we can help build around as well. I hate to tell you this. Whether they kept those guys or not, they're still going to need the additional pieces to be an Eastern Conference champion, to be a world champion. Not having those guys only prevents them from getting there in a longer form because they need certain players to fill those roles too, moving forward. Our phone number on the Meijer hotline is 866-838-4843. The text line is Sports Radio 21,000. We always welcome your comments in the chat. We're getting more here from Mike. We'll get to all that and more coming up here, brought to you by Meijer.
Dad, here's 3 reasons why we should go to the Meyer LPGA Classic for Simply Give.
Okay.
1, you can spend Father's Day weekend with some real golfers.
Ouch.
2, it's a good time for a good cause. Foodie fun, family fun, and fun helping feed neighbors in need.
And 3.
3, do you really need another reason?
Join the fun June 18th through 21st at the Meyer LPGA Classic for Simply Give. Learn more and get tickets at MeyerLPGAClassic.com.
The stock market goes up and then it goes down. It's fine while you're saving for retirement, but as you get closer to retirement, it can cause stress. Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. In my NFL days, this season could be a real roller coaster and a lot of fun, but roller coasters in retirement aren't as much fun. Do world events have you wondering if your retirement is safe? Will your money last even if the stock market were to take a dive? Have you had your retirement account stress tested to see what kind of risk you're actually taking? Let's not leave your retirement to chance. Hope is not a plan. Contact the pros at Mitch Lyons Wealth today and put us to work for you. Let's ensure your plan works even if the stock market doesn't. Text PLAN, P-L-A-N, to 844-867-8335. That's PLAN to 844-867-8335. MitchLyonsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. Investment advisory services are offered through MLW Advisory Services, LLC, DBA Mitch Lyons Wealth, a registered investment advisor.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu.
JD had a fantastic season, all-star, one of the biggest contributors to us being number 1 seed. Darn near 20 points and 10 rebounds per game. An incredible year, an incredible leap from last year to this year because of the work that he put in last summer and his focus. And I have no doubt that we'll help him put a plan together, and he'll attack it this summer just like he did last summer. He'll come back a better player from his experience, not only during the regular season, but also in the postseason, just like all of our guys will. So we look forward to coming together with his representation, getting a deal done, and for him to continue to be a Piston.
So that is a very calm Trajan Langdon at his press conference talking about Jalen Duren. I know for a lot of people, that is a frustrating answer. Because against Orlando, he averaged 10.5 points. Against Cleveland, he averaged 10 points. So Orlando was 10.5 and 9.5. Cleveland, it was 10 and 7.5. And I think it's fair to say, and look, I mean, from a historical standpoint, against the Knicks a year ago, he averaged 12 and 11. Is that enough? It's certain guys are never going to please everybody. And I understand that. We were all critical of him. He deserved criticism. There's no question. The bigger question is, do you give up on a player like this? Do you give up on a 22-year-old, 6'10", 250-pound chiseled dude who showed improvement from one year to the next, a willingness to put in the work? And before you roll your eyes, sorry, I mean, there's a lot of guys who don't. I'm going to Greece. I'll see you guys in training camp. It's exaggerated, granted, but there are a lot of young guys who need to have a stronger work ethic. This kid does have a strong work ethic. After every year, players go in, they meet with coaches, they meet with front office personnel. They put them in a situation where we are going to give you a breakdown and a plan of what we want you to work on. And here's what we recommend. And then you implement that plan. Every team does this. All right. Every good team does this. And that is up to the players to implement. Jalen Duren did that. You can't disagree with me that he improved from last year to this year during the regular season.
Yeah, no, he did. That's
okay.
I don't understand how people could think over the whole season he didn't improve.
You can complain about his playoffs and you'd be justifiable, but don't tell me that he didn't get better in a lot of different areas. Come on, man. I mean, he went from 12 points per game last year to almost 20 points per game this year.
I think a lot of it for people is like, you mentioned like what Trajan said. Now some people might be frustrated. I definitely could see that. I think it's more what they're going to pay him. I think it's more about how much he's asking for that people would be upset with. And I think the thing that I was seeing a lot going around yesterday, it seemed like, is I know you mentioned like they want to bring Duren and Thompson back, which I think they do want to do that for sure. But if you had to pick one guy that was like more untouchable, what person would it be for you? Which one of the two? If they had to get rid of one, like open up for like a bigger signing, say, or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not a huge believer in the untouchable stuff. I've never been. And the reason is because I've seen San Francisco get rid of Joe Montana. I've seen the Edmonton Oilers get rid of Wayne Gretzky. I've seen Lance Parrish walk when he was still in his prime. I've seen LeBron James move on. Not that he was traded per se, but I've seen him move on. We've seen better players than anybody on this Pistons franchise go to a different franchise. Now, this is probably a poor example, but Ben Wallace was traded from Orlando. Would Orlando have traded him had they waited it out? Grant Hill got traded. That was part of the deal. John Smoltz was traded. We've seen guys who are really good players move on from a team. And not many people would have guessed it. Did you think Saquon Barkley was good by the Giants? You damn right you thought he was good. How the hell did they let him walk? So I'm not a huge believer in, you know what? He's untouchable. I can tell you this. The one guy I want to build around is Cade Cunningham. Anybody else? Make me the right offer.
Yeah, I think that's more what it's a really good point, Shep. It's a good way to think about it. I guess for me, that's just like that's the conversation. I think everybody thinks the Cade's gonna stay here, at least, right? He's not going anywhere. So it's like if you look at Duren and Thompson, and there had to be money freed up. If you had to get rid of one of those guys, maybe the better way to word it. I guess what one would you not? Which one would you rather keep if you had to make that decision to open up money for somebody else?
Yeah, and I think the reason there's a debate here, Andy, that you're even asking is because there are deficiencies in their games.
Absolutely.
Do you believe Asar Thompson? Otherwise, they would be untouchable in all likelihood.
Exactly.
Do you believe Asar Thompson is ever going to be a really good shooter? I mean, I don't know that, but I doubt it.
Yep.
Okay. I would bet against it. But that doesn't mean he can't help my team in other ways. Do you think Jalen Duren's ever going to expand his game further than what he did this year? This year, he did have some good moments in that regard. Do you think that's going to happen? I think that's more likely than Asar Thompson becoming a really good shooter. But that doesn't mean I think he's untouchable either. If you put together a package that gave me, yes, I said package, that gave me a guy who could hit from the outside and maybe not be as formidable rebounder as a guy like Jalen Duren, but still be a big guy who can expand his game a little bit and still create some mismatch. Absolutely, I would do it. You talk to a lot of different opposing players that the Pistons played against this year, and you know what they said? Jalen Duren's the strongest dude in the league. He's a big, strong dude at 22. Okay, he's going to make $40 million. That's a tough pill to swallow. As Omari Sankofa told us, we're not paying it. Okay? Let me ask you this. You know how I feel about Jaylen Brown, right? I think he's a really good player. Do you think he's a really good player? Do you think Jaylen Brown, who is an MVP?
Yeah, absolutely.
In the MVP conversation. All right. Do you think he's a really good player?
Yeah, I do.
Is he a $57 million a year player?
I mean,
I'm just asking.
With the way the NBA is now, yeah, probably.
Okay, we're looking at Jalen Duren making possibly $40 million, and people are going, "Oh my God, are you kidding me?" Boston paid Jaylen Brown 5 years, $285 million.
Exactly. It's just it's where the market's at. So
it's all about what you can get. Okay, if there are certain contracts that are probably a little bit more difficult to swallow. All right. I mean, you've got teams out there paying guys. You're like, how is this guy making this kind of money? Do you like Michael Porter? Do you like Michael Porter Jr.? Do you think he's a good player?
I think he's a good player. Yeah.
Okay. He's making more than $35 million a year as a role player. Okay. Tobias Harris signed just a 2-year deal, so it's not a huge problem, but he makes $26 million a year. I guess you got to tell me what the top, what the ceiling, and what the floor are for certain players. Somebody had put out the other day that I think it was Asar Thompson was going to be in the range of 5 years, $133 million, something like that, or $33 million a year, I think is what it was. And Duren's going to be close to $40 million a year, something along those lines. Okay. I mean, if that's the case, then could you live with that?
I got a text here from John and Shepard. Says contract, just because we're kind of on this anyway right now. He says contracts are worthless if a player wants more salary in year 4 in a 6-year contract. The player will sit out till they get what they want or the player demands a trade. I'm trying to think of an example that I can think of that's like that. But.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what he means by that. He thinks they want more money backloaded so they can ask for a
basically,
trade?
Yeah. I think he's trying to say that at the end of the contract they would sit out until they can get out. I guess, if they
to renegotiate.
Yeah, probably they don't like their situation or something. It's
Similar to what Trent Williams did in San Francisco.
Sure. Yeah.
Is that a fair example? Okay. Could be. I don't know. I mean, a lot of players want it front loaded because they want the money early in the contract. So I'm not sure. I would love to know the example he's referring to. I don't see that happen in the NBA that much. You're seeing it right now with Jacoby Brissett in Arizona. He's not showing up to OTAs because he wants a better contract. I think you see that in football because guys want it front loaded so they get the money up front in case they do get cut later on in their careers. So I think it's a little different for football. I haven't seen that in basketball much. Let me get to some discussions in the chat. From Mike, every GM in Detroit, we're good. What is the biggest free agent signing in the last few years combined? Framber Valdez? Yeah, that's a really good one. I don't think it would be Kevin Zeitler for the Lions. I'm talking about the biggest name. Was that the biggest for the Lions? It's a good question. DJ Reed coming from the Jets.
That was the line I was going to bring up probably.
Okay. None of those would be equivalent to that of Framber Valdez with the Tigers.
I don't think so, no.
Is that fair?
Yeah, when they signed Framber Valdez, like people were talking about that big time.
Yeah, and I don't think a free agent like Tim Hardaway Jr. or Duncan Robinson or Karis LeVert would be a big name for the Pistons.
No, I don't think the Pistons have signed that name yet. That has brought that. Besides, Cade, keeping him around,
but he was a draft pick.
Yeah,
yeah. So we're talking about free agents here.
Yeah, just free agent signings.
We're talking about the biggest names that in Detroit.
Yeah, I'm saying I don't think the Pistons have made anything that compares to that yet. Not
who are we looking at? I mean, I guess we'd have to look at a certain window of opportunity.
I don't know how many years did he say, going back, with the question?
He just said, what is the big in the last few years combined?
I don't remember how many years ago they signed him, but Alex DeBrincat was a pretty big deal when they signed him. I don't know if it's as big as Framber Valdez, but people were all about that.
Yes. Alex DeBrincat signing with the Red Wings. Could you say that is equivalent to Framber Valdez with the Tigers? Could you do that? I think you can. I do. I mean, how big? Look, part of this has to do with the fact that the Tigers hadn't really dipped into free agency all that much, at least big name free agency. All right. So if that's the case, and you look at Framber Valdez, and it helps that he wins a World Series, and it helps that he was a two-time All-Star. Alex DeBrincat has never been an All-Star. But remember what the Red Wings needed. They needed scoring. They needed a legitimate 40-goal scorer, and there aren't that many out there. And DeBrincat had scored 41 in his career, not once but twice. He did it in Chicago twice. It helped to have Patrick Kane there.
I think Alex DeBrincat should have been an All-Star this year too, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, I think you could have made a case he should have been on Team USA.
But, absolutely.
But how can you and I bitch about that when they won gold medal?
Yeah, no,
so they won
no complaints. Well, they did. Yeah.
It's hard to complain. Anyway, so yes, DeBrincat's a good one. If you had to say the biggest free agent name for the Red Wings would be DeBrincat, it wouldn't be John Gibson. So it would be DeBrincat. For the Lions, I would say Zeitler, maybe DJ Reed, because Reed was a multi-year deal. Zeitler was a one-year contract, and a little bit later on in his career. Tigers, Framber Valdez. Pistons. I mean, if Tim Hardaway Jr. was such a big name and a big free agent signing, why'd they only keep him 1 year?
Yeah, I think you're still waiting for that for the Pistons. I think a lot of people are hoping
Tobias
this is the offseason we get that name.
Yeah, maybe Tobias Harris. We haven't seen it. I think Mike's point is a good one, and that is that why aren't players being signed here? Is it nobody wants to come here, quote unquote, or is it the general managers are reluctant to pull the proverbial trigger. Because it sure doesn't seem like many of the Detroit general managers are willing to build around free agents. They would much rather build around their homegrown talent. Now, here's what I would ask you. When you are thinking about certain free agents and wanting said free agents, tell me which guy got away that you desperately wanted. I'm guilty. I would have loved to have seen Bo Bichette come here. Dude's batting 2.25 for the Mets right now. They are skewering him on a regular basis. He's got 5 home runs. He's got an on-base percentage, Andy, of 277. Now, you tell me. No, it's awful.
Yeah.
Okay. But you tell me, is that a guy who is worth $42 million? Because the Mets signed him to a 3-year contract worth $42 million per year, and he's got a player option each of the last 2 years.
No, he's not probably worth that, but it's baseball. I mean, people, if you want to spend the money, you can spend the money.
Well, I don't care what sport it is. I don't care if it's baseball.
Yeah.
I care about whether or not that player projects. And I would have done it because that player does project.
His track record, I think you would have thought that he would have been that. Yeah.
Here's the other thing. He's 28. He's in the prime of his career. So you're damn right. This is not a Cole Keith situation. Cole Keith has team options at the last 3 years, which people seem to forget. They're just tweeting out there, I can't believe you're paying this guy X amount, $30 million. Dude, it's a team option in each of the last 3 years. Wake up, recognize the contract, and stop getting hung up on that, will you? Holy God. Move on. It wasn't that bad of a deal. It's not that big of a risk. This is a risk. It's 42 each of the next 3 years, player option, which means I'm going to opt in instead of opting out. He can struggle and still get the 42 mil. It's not the team that says goodbye. It's the player that says goodbye. There's a huge difference. You would have been wrong, at least so far, about Bo Bichette. I mean, there's still plenty of season left to be had here. We'll see what happens with him, right? A lot of people said, Shep, we've got to go get Pete Alonso because I can't stand Spencer Torkelson any longer. Pete Alonso's batting 222. He's slugging 416. That is not what Baltimore expected. It's easy to armchair quarterback. It's really easy to sit back and say, you know what? You should have done this. You should have done that. I want to know the people who said, this is the guy I wanted, and then stand up and say, I would have been right or I would have been wrong. Our phone number on the Meijer hotline, 866-838-4843. You can always text us, Sports Radio 21,000. Get involved in the chat like guys like Kevin and Mike. We appreciate it as always on a Wednesday morning, brought to you by Meijer.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive, boys and girls, high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com.
Farrah's Coffee has been family-owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Farrah's Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Dad, here's 3 reasons why we should go to the Meyer LPGA Classic for Simply Give.
Okay.
1, you can spend Father's Day weekend with some real golfers.
Ouch.
2, it's a good time for a good cause. Foodie fun, family fun, and fun helping feed neighbors in need.
And 3.
3, do you really need another reason?
Join the fun June 18th through 21st at the Meyer LPGA Classic for Simply Give. Learn more and get tickets at MeyerLPGAClassic.com.
Where are you watching the Tigers this year? Superfly Hayes here for Detroit Sports Net. Sign up like the Huge Show did with the Detroit Sports Net Tigers Wings package. Subscription info at tigers.com and MLB.com.
Coming up later today at 3 on the Huge Show on the Michigan Sports Network, I'll deliver huge opinions on everything you're talking about.
hard to put in words what he has done for this organization and for our young players. They call him Unk for a reason. He comes in, he leads in a variety of ways that nobody will ever see or ever feel, but our guys do, and we do as an organization every day. So, we appreciate everything he's brought, and we hope that we can bring him back. He's somebody that we want to keep in a Pistons uniform.
It's Trajan Langdon talking about Tobias Harris. You want him back? Do you think he fits a certain role for this team? I do. I want to keep good players. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's a great player. I'm not keeping him for sentimental reasons. I'm keeping him because I think he can help this team. I think there's a lot of discussion on just moving on from certain players because of their age. I think he can still provide a very good service for you, but in a different role.
Yeah, I think a lot of what we talked about yesterday with like if there was any way to get him coming off the bench, I think that'd be great to have him in that role.
Yeah, I think it'd be ideal.
That'd be.
I want Duncan Robinson off the bench.
I agree with that 100%. I think he almost plays better that way sometimes.
I think it shows you. It shows you how good your team can be when you've got better players coming off the bench in certain roles or playing in a different role. Let's use the Lions as an example. Now that they have Blake Miller, based on his reputation and what he did at Clemson and never missing but one practice in 4 years and starting every single game and having the statistics that he has, do you think this team's in better shape now that they have the depth along offensive line? I know you don't want Larry Barham to start, but if you had him coming in an emergency situation compared to what you had a year ago, you feel better, right? You feel better that you've got a Juice Scruggs who's started games in the National Football League. You feel better that he's coming in as a backup than as a starter, but he's a quality backup to Tate Ratledge.
I don't understand how anybody could think the Lions' offensive line didn't get better. Like, it's definitely gotten better.
For sure. So my point is the depth is really important. If Zach McKinstry was playing for you sparingly, coming in pinch run, pinch hit situations, I need Kevin McGonigal to get a day off. I need Glaber Torres to get a day off. And I got Zach McKinstry. You feel better than him if he's in your lineup every single day.
Yeah, and he's probably a better overall player in that role too, I think.
100%. If you have a number one goalie and it's John Gibson, but Cam Talbot's your backup and he's starting twice a week. I know it's a tough job. You feel better about that than if he's starting every day.
I think a lot of people would like that down the stretch too.
Absolutely. So there are certain roles certain players are playing, and they just become better. And that's okay. Michael Cooper was a great sixth man. Vinnie Johnson was a great sixth man. You know, they had a role. They played the role well. They were better in that role for that team. Could you make a case certain guys would be starters? Well, I've heard that about Paul Reed. Paul Reed would start for half of the other teams in the NBA. I doubt that, number one. But maybe Paul Reed's just a really good player as a backup. I've told this story numerous times, but I'm going to tell it again. I had a conversation once with Mike Babcock while he was the head coach of the Detroit Red Wings. And there was a defensive player by the name of Brad Stewart who was a second-line defenseman. And he was really good. And I said to him, why don't you just play him as a first-line defenseman if he's that good? He said, because certain guys are really good because of the roles they're put in. Part of, if I hope you would agree with me on this, part of the responsibility of a head coach in any sport, a really good coach takes their players and puts them in the best position to succeed, right? Why would Dan Campbell ever use the quarterback bootleg for Jared Goff on a day-to-day basis? He's not putting Jared Goff in a position to succeed, is he? Hell no, he's not. Because he knows Jared Goff, that's not one of his strengths. You play to a player's strengths. You coach to a player's strengths. So if you've got Duncan Robinson coming off your bench, and you've got Tobias Harris coming off your bench, and then you've got Paul Reed and or Isaiah Stewart coming off your bench, and maybe a Danis Jenkins coming off your bench, that's a good thing. You know why? Because that means you've got better players starting in their stead in the starting lineup. That's going to be something that he's going to have to figure out, and I'm sure a lot of managers and coaches have tried to figure the same thing out, especially in this town.
If that exact thing happened where those guys were coming off the bench, I would find it hard to believe that anybody would be complaining about it. I think that would be, well, depending on who they added, of course. Some people might be upset about who they added in their place, but that's what I feel like they have to do is look into that for sure. And I'm sure they're going to have that conversation. You know, Tobias obviously provided a great spark, but towards the end he looked tired and stuff. That's probably a tough conversation to have. I don't know how much of a bench player he's been in his career, but that'd be interesting to see what they could do with that.
Yeah. Good correction here. Freddie says they traded for Alex DeBrincat. They didn't sign him as a free agent.
Yep, that's true. Yep.
Yeah. So John Gibson, I believe, was John Gibson a trade too? That might have been a trade as well.
Yeah, it could be.
You know, the free agents are the Andrew Kopps of the world.
Yeah, the free.
That's
a lot of the free agent centers he signed are
it's a really good question from Mike. Who is it that this town has signed as a free agent that has made you turn your head? It's got to be Framber Valdez.
Yeah, no, I think that's it right now. I mean, I don't know who else.
It's based on need and based on name, reputation, all the things that he has done in his career. Fair to say? I think.
Yeah, so. And I mean, even before that, I think the last time that you would be able to bring it up would be the Tigers when they signed Javier Baez. Honestly, that was like at the time, that was the name that they paid him a good amount of money and he was a big name. Obviously he's fallen off in everything that's happened. I'm just saying if we went back to that time, I think in 2022 people were excited because they signed him and Eduardo Rodriguez, right? That was
Eduardo Rodriguez, which I thought was a good signing, ended up not being a very good signing. Although
I'm right there with
he had a player option. He opted out. That helped the Tigers. They went to him with a deal. He chose to free agency, and he signed in Arizona. That was a massive win for the Tigers. People forget about that. All right. I know it wasn't their decision. It was the player's decision, but they still dodged a proverbial bullet there. Look, when Javier Baez signed here, I was not a huge fan of it.
Neither was I.
And a lot of people took shots at me because there were 5 shortstops
as
huge free agents that year. It was Carlos Correa. It was Trevor Story. It was Marcus Semien, who I always viewed more of a second baseman. Okay. It was Javier Baez.
Carlos Correa.
Yeah, I said Carlos Correa.
Yep.
Correa's injury history worried me. Semien, I thought, was more of a second baseman. Baez was too much of a free swinger. I wanted Trevor Story. Wouldn't have necessarily been right.
Yep, I like that name a lot too.
Yep, so he was injured a lot, but I thought he was a good leader. I thought he was a really good shortstop. It hasn't worked out. Oh, Corey Seager was the other one.
Yeah,
Corey Seager, right. You weren't going to be able to. First of all, you weren't going to be able to afford. Second of all, Corey Seager, I thought a little bit of a clubhouse issue. So part of the reason I sided with Trevor Story. Now you don't have to worry about that because you have your own shortstop. Although last night he's playing third base in Kevin McGonigal. Get to the final results of the poll question, get to more of your thoughts on X's and Bros here on a Wednesday morning. Glad you're with us. We're brought to you this hour by our friends at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
In the den with
Dan Dickerson.
It's a new day to celebrate and be free. It's a new day full of action and excitement because it's a day for winning. Only at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort, your getaway reimagined.
Before Monday's game against the Guardians, Tarek Skubal was playing long toss out in left field at Comerica Park. Nothing unusual about that. It's what he does before every bullpen session, except this was 12 days after arthroscopic surgery to remove a loose body from his left elbow. The recovery from that surgery is typically 2 to 3 months, but the new technology is far less invasive than the old, which means Tarek Skubal could start to throw days after the surgery, throw a regular bullpen 12 days later with the small governor on velocity. But this is rather remarkable. Skubal is back in Detroit so he can get back in his normal 5-day routine to prepare for his next start. He doesn't have to go back to square one to build arm strength. Well, if Skubal keeps progressing like this, he might be back in early June instead of July or August.
Huge year for the Carmody brothers and all the Buffalo Wild Wings locations in Michigan. They have some huge deals happening every week. Buy one boneless wing, get one free every Thursday. They also have their bottomless appetizers. Groups can get bottomless apps starting at $9.99, and they also have the Pick Six meal for two. Get 2 entrees, 2 sides, and 2 drinks starting at $19.99. That's happening at all Buffalo Wild Wings locations in Michigan. Huge deals every week.
Rod Stewart returns to Soaring Eagle Thursday, September 3rd. The Soaring Eagle Summer Outdoor Concert Series with special guest Richard Marks. Tickets start at $71 and are on sale now at the box office and etix.com. One last time, Rod Stewart with Richard Marks, September 3rd. SoaringEagleCasino.com.
Where are you watching the Tigers this year? Superfly Hayes here for Detroit Sportsnet. Sign up like the Huge Show did with the Detroit Sportsnet Tigers Wings package. Subscription info at tigers.com and MLB.com.
Coming up later today at 3 on the Huge Show on the Michigan Sports Network, I'll deliver huge opinions on everything you're talking about.
There's an interesting philosophy that a lot of people have right now on why Riley Green should be facing lefties. And it was just a couple of years ago, we were taking these phone calls from people. Kerry Carpenter deserves to be in there. Riley Green's in there against lefties, Shep. I don't understand it. I said, here's what you have to understand. Riley Green can hit lefties. Kerry Carpenter can't. Based on their history, that is a fact. What's interesting is that last night Detroit had what they thought were good matchups. Maybe Riley Green down in the lineup a little bit more than some people wanted. I've said I want Kevin McGonigal, Riley Green, Dylan Dingler, Cole Keith in my top 4 on a regular basis. Those are the guys who hit the ball. They put the ball in play for the most part. I mean, I know you complain about Riley Green and his strikeouts, but I don't know how you can deny what he's done this year. You can be the most ardent Riley Green hater. He's proven to you that he's pretty damn good, okay? And by the way, he's hitting lefties like at a 380 clip. Jahmai Jones batted in the 9th for this team last night. Struck out. He is now 0 for 9 against righties. I think there's a lot of Tiger fans, and I would be one of them, that have a legitimate wonder, not a demand, but openly wondering about certain guys. Why is Jahmai Jones still on this team? Why is Wenzel Perez still hitting? Why is Zach Short on this team? And how much more do you need to see of Hao-Yu Lee? Every article we read, I mean, this is what I mean about trying to think independently. Articles we read coming into the season, shoving Hao-Yu Lee down our throat. It's going to be okay. He's the guy. Super excited to see this young man play. Look at that. His first home run as a major leaguer. Blah, 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 blah. It's constant. You can't wait on anything these days. There's no way you can say, I'm going to let this guy grow a little bit, because the writers have to fill space, and I get it. And they're talking to certain contacts within the organization, and the organization is saying, that's a guy I traded for. That's a guy I drafted. That's a guy I wanted. Trust me, this is what I see in him. Oh, then you and I read it. Hey, you know what I really like about this guy? Watch him for a little bit and then come to a determination. I don't know if he's going to be a really good player or not. He's not major league ready now. That's pretty obvious. Wenzel Perez does not look like the same player he looked last year. Does he? Hell no. Do you really need to keep watching Zach Short? Who's Jahmai Jones? It's obnoxious what this team is going through. But maybe, just maybe, what the team is putting us through. Think about it. When people talk about smartest guy in the room, it's, I'm going to take the guy that nobody else believed in, and I'm going to make him ours, and I'm going to prove to you that I do know ball. Max Muncy with the Dodgers. How did the Athletics give up on him? Who knows, right? Jahmai Jones was a more than serviceable player a year ago. He's not the same player this year. Do you look at last year, or do you judge him based on this year? How about the whole career? How about the 220 player all his life? Is that possible? I mean, it's a 6-year span. Is it worthy of you coming to a conclusion after 6 years? Angels gave up on him. Orioles gave up on him. Milwaukee didn't see anything in him. Yankees didn't either. Tigers maybe caught lightning in the bottle a year ago, and you're going to stick with him. He's 10 for 60 so far this year. He's 10 for 60. Very strange. Said this article yesterday. ESPN released a free agency article on best fits for remaining free agents in the National Football League. Who are still some of the guys who you could see going to certain teams? You need a best fits type of guy. They did have somebody for your Detroit Lions. What is it you see that the Lions need? Is there anything left? Now that the draft is over, is there anything else that you see that the Lions could use?
I still don't feel like super great about their linebacker depth, even after the draft, because I'm just not a huge Jimmy Roller guy. But like, I don't hate the pick, don't love it, but I still feel like they could do better there.
What don't you like about Jimmy Roller? I'm just out of curiosity.
Not necessarily like anything that like I think he can develop into a good player. I just don't know if he's like if you're looking for this year specifically, I don't know if he's like, ready to be the guy for them to step in with Jack Campbell.
I don't think he's supposed to be stepping in for Jack Campbell.
No, not like in his position, like maybe playing with him. But I don't know if like maybe they could do better than that in free agency, I guess. Because like you said, I felt pretty good about their draft in the areas they addressed. So I'm not saying that you can always add, in my opinion. You should always be looking to get better. But yeah, I think that would be the one position I still would want to see get shored up a little bit.
I get it. I think he's a good player. I think the thing that a lot of people may question is he a starting player? Is he an every down starting player?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then I think I completely believe that's fair. Well, here's the projected landing spot for one specific place. I mean, can you ever get enough pass edge rushers? Can you ever have enough of those guys? Probably not. So the question is, who are the guys who remain out there and where do they best fit? All right. Is there a guy who could help the Lions in that regard? Cam Jordan, somebody like that, right? A Jadeveon Clowney, somebody like that. The ESPN article writes that Jadeveon Clowney is the best fit for the Lions. Played 13 games a year ago for Dallas. Had 8.5 sacks. Had 7 tackles for loss. Had 4 passes defended. How much of an upgrade would that be from a year ago? It'd be a massive upgrade. If Derek Moore comes through, if Derek Moore is the guy, we hope he is, then that would be a massive deal. All right. He would be a really good fit. I don't know what kind of locker room guy he is. I think there's a lot of people who feel like that's a really important piece to the Lions puzzle. The culture that they've helped establish. We've talked about that with the Pistons as well and their culture. And it's interesting. We bring up the two successful organizations about culture. Do we say that about the Tigers? Do we say it about the Red Wings? We probably don't. If the culture is so strong, if that Lions culture is so strong, led by the leaders they have, what would be the concern bringing in a guy who's had maybe a little bit of a checkered past? We'll talk more about that on the other side. A quick timeout here on X's and Bros. We're glad you're with us on a Wednesday morning throughout the Michigan Sports Network or via the chat or via Zoom or whatever it is however you may be watching us here on a Wednesday morning, brought to you by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort.
In the den
with Dan Dickerson.
It's a new day to celebrate and be free. It's a new day full of action and excitement because it's a day for winning. Only at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort, your getaway reimagined. Before Monday's game against the Guardians, Tarek Scuba was playing long toss out in left field at Comerica Park. Nothing unusual about that. It's what he does before every bullpen session, except this was 12 days after arthroscopic surgery to remove a loose body from his left elbow. The recovery from that surgery is typically 2 to 3 months, but the new technology is far less invasive than the old, which means Tarek Scuba could start to throw days after the surgery, throw a regular bullpen 12 days later with the small governor on velocity. But this is rather remarkable. Scuba is back in Detroit so he can get back in his normal 5-day routine to prepare for his next start. He doesn't have to go back to square one to build arm strength. Well, if Scuba keeps progressing like this, he might be back in early June instead of July or August.
Rod Stewart returns to Soaring Eagle Thursday, September 3rd. The Soaring Eagle Summer Outdoor Concert Series with special guest Richard Marks. Tickets start at $71 and are on sale now at the box office and etix.com. One last time, Rod Stewart with Richard Marks, September 3rd. SoaringEagleCasino.com.
Where are you watching the Tigers this year? Superfly Hayes here for Detroit Sports Net. Sign up like the Huge Show did with the Detroit Sports Net Tigers Wings package. Subscription info at tigers.com and MLB.com.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to my good friend Shep. The Huge Show is coming up later today at 3, right here on the Michigan Sports Network.
Back with you on X's and Bros around the state of Michigan. Thanks for listening, whether it be in Cadillac on WKAD, the Ticket 93.7 FM, the flagship in Grand Rapids that serves Kalamazoo, and Holland 96.1 FM, WMAX, the game. In Petoskey and Charlevoix, the Ticket Northern Michigan, WMBN 104.7 FM and 1340 AM. In Lansing, WVFN AM, 730 AM, the game. And in Traverse City, WKAD 93.7 FM, the Ticket. Maybe you're watching us stream live on YouTube, on X, or on Facebook. We appreciate that very much. A lot of different ways you can get involved in the program. You can call us on the Meyer hotline, 866-838-4843. You could text us, Sports Radio 21000, and then you're in. Or you can join us in the chat right here if you're streaming us live. Somebody had texted us and said, fans like me will ask fairly, how did Riley do against a really good lefty yesterday when it really mattered in the 8th inning? I don't root for him to fail, but to succeed in big moments. No one's going to be perfect in big moments. However, you want big moments, here you go. Riley Green, would you say batting with runners in scoring position is important? Is that a big moment? Yes or no?
Yeah.
It's a big moment.
I mean, it definitely matters in every game.
All right. He's hitting 320.
Yeah, he's been good this year.
Do you think it's a big moment with men on base?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Every chance you have to drive people in, yeah.
Okay, he's batting 322 in that regard. How about with a man on third and two away? Is it a big moment?
Yeah, for sure. You got to have a hit there.
He's batting 417. How about this one? How about with two outs and runners in scoring position? He's batting 346.
But if he strikes out in any of those situations, he's terrible, right?
Right. And I'm not saying the text is saying he's terrible.
No.
But when you talk about big moments, you're being singular in what you remembered from last night, and you expect a perfect performance. And that's just not realistic. And I know, I wanted him to come through too. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have come through and I'm giving him a pass. That's not fair at all. I'm just trying to be realistic here. I want you to understand some things. Not that you don't already. I don't mean to come off so condescending. That's not fair, because all our listeners are very well aware. They've watched a ton of baseball. They know a lot. All right, first and foremost. But when you talk about whether or not a guy is, coming up in big moments, it just kind of bothers me, because you're reflecting back on last night where he didn't come through in the 8th, and there are plenty of times this year where he hasn't. I think George Brett's one of the best players I watched as a kid. Loved him. All right. In his career with runners in scoring position, he hit 307. In his career with men on base, he hit 314. And he's a Hall of Fame player. Now, I'm not saying Riley Green's a Hall of Fame player, and I'm sure as hell not comparing him to George Brett. I'm giving you an example of a left-handed hitter who, in his Hall of Fame career, the numbers that you would consider to be most important, clutch, coming through in a moment, all those different things. All right? On third base with two out, a man on third base and two out, he's a career 284 hitter. I'm giving you the same numbers for him in his career that Riley Green has had for this season. You're bringing up a game from last night. I'm giving you what he's done this year. You're trying to tell me that because he failed in the moment last night, that it's not that he can't come through in big moments. What about all the other numbers that he's done this year and the number of times that he has come through? Give me the player you think is so clutch and comes through every time.
Especially in a sport like baseball, where it's just it's so hard to be perfect in that regard. And I think in this series alone, if you really want to just, shorten it up to like that, because you saw him mess up in that situation last night, I think he got on his first 7 times in this series. That's what I kept hearing on the broadcast. So, how much more perfect could you be than that?
Who's the best left fielder in baseball? It's probably Yordan Alvarez right now. All right. Do you know what his numbers? Do you know what his batting average is with runners in scoring position? I gave you Riley Green's. Riley Green's numbers with runners in scoring position is 320. Do you know what Yordan Alvarez's is?
I don't.
It's 276.
I was going to guess less because more times than not, it seems like Riley's come through. Okay. Not more times than not, but you know what I mean. Like he's come through a good amount of the time.
Right. I gave you Riley's numbers with runners in scoring position, with men on base. Excuse me. He's batting 322. Do you know what Yordan Alvarez is batting with men on base? 271. I'll give you Riley with what did I say? Man on third and 2 out, batting 417. You know what Yordan Alvarez is doing with a man on third and 2 out? You got to get him home. He's batting 1,000, but he's 1 for 1. That's it. With 2 outs and runners in scoring position, 2 men down, runners in scoring position. Riley Green has been really, really good. Yordan Alvarez, 333. Green, 346. If you want to compare apples to apples, left-handed hitters, left fielders, 2 guys who are vying for similar type of awards, if you will, credibility, there you go. You're asking fairly, I'm telling you completely. And I'm not saying this person is saying that Riley Green's the problem, okay?
Yeah,
but if you're talking about a player you really don't have to worry about, I would guess it would be more like Riley Green than anybody else. And look, I don't want to be a nitpicking type of host, so that's not fair. Me talking about him this year when perhaps you're referring to him as his career. Let's say that's what you're more about. It's his career. Okay, I'll give you that. In his career with runners in scoring position, he's batting 275. In his career with men on base, he's batting 285. Down from this year, without question, but still respectable. If you're looking for clutch moments, you want those clutch stats, 2 outs with runners in scoring position, he's a 265 hitter. Now, the bigger question would then be, is 5 years, 4 and change, a big enough sample size? There's a lot worse players than him. I don't think the texter, nor am I suggesting that he's part of the problem. I don't think he is. I think he's part of the solution, for crying out loud. You wish you had more players like him. Let's get to the final results of the poll question, shall we? And then I do want to pick it up with the Jadeveon Clowney conversation, because ESPN has put that article out there that he would be the right fit. You know, there are other guys still out there. Stephon Diggs is still available. Kevin Zeitler is still available, and they got him going to San Francisco. Joey Bosa. Would you rather have Joey Bosa? They have him going to Frisco too with his brother. Or would you rather have a guy like Jadeveon Clowney? What about AJ Epinesa? I think he's a good player, and he's a younger player. I mentioned Cameron Jordan. I would like Cameron Jordan. 6'5", 287, still productive. But I wouldn't have a problem with Clowney. 8.5 sacks a year ago, a guy who played, and remind you this, with Jadeveon Clowney, he's not a guy who needs a ton of snaps. He's productive, quite honestly, without the snaps. He only started 6 games. He played 13 games a year ago. He started 6, and he played, as far as I like to look at snap count, he played 44% of the snaps. He's giving you 8.5 sacks at 44% of the snaps. Al-Qadim Muhammad gave you double-digit sacks with less percentage of the snaps, but he wasn't very good against the run. How good is Jadeveon Clowney against the run? That's a good question. Because it's got to be more than pass coverage, and it's got to be more than pass rush. You have to, quote unquote, set the edge. Let's get to the final results of the poll question from yesterday and the Daily Wager. The Daily Wager brought to you by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort and their sportsbook Ascend. We said, besides Cade Cunningham, which Piston is untouchable? I know, I don't like that word either, but that was a big conversation among fans yesterday. Asar Thompson, Ron Holland, Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart. I don't think anybody said that Ron Holland's an untouchable. We put him in there because he was the 5th overall pick, and he was a draft pick of Trajan Langdon. We put in Isaiah Stewart because so many people just love Isaiah Stewart, even though he does some undisciplined things. I almost said stupid. Undisciplined things. Jalen Duren, my guess is people would say Asar Thompson would win this. What were the final results?
Asar Thompson did win at 84%. I feel like it's a lot because of the defense that he plays. I mean, people
absolutely
compare him to the top of the league, and that's hard to replace. Plus, I feel like you can get away with that if you do add enough scoring around him to keep him with being more one-dimensional. Jalen Duren.
Okay, so if he's really one-dimensional, this is the interesting conversation. If he's one-dimensional, why, if another player is one-dimensional, a scorer, like, let's use James Harden for Cleveland, Luka Doncic for the Lakers, they're one-dimensional. What is it that I'm missing there? Is it because Asar Thompson is so good defensively? Like, he's an elite defensive player.
Yeah, people compare him to the best in the league, besides probably Wemby.
So if you feel that, but he can't score, you're okay with it. But if a guy can really score, but he can't defend, then you've got a problem with it.
Yeah, I guess that's it is interesting to think about. Maybe I think people think if they got more scoring, that maybe that could make up for it. I guess, like if they added people that were elite enough scorers on this team, that maybe having him as the one off. Plus, you can hope that he can develop too. Like you can hope that he can develop to be, like what did you say yesterday? 12 points per game or something like that. I think anybody would take that. But Jalen Duren was 16%, Ron Holland 0, Isaiah Stewart 0. We did have a couple comments asking for a nobody button on that, and I do understand that. That's kind of what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, for sure. I completely get that.
Yeah.
All right, that's good stuff. We have another one out there right now, and I hope people get a chance to do that. Are you watching the Tigers? No, it's too frustrating. Yes, now that the Pistons season is over. I did until this brutal stretch where they've lost 12 of 14 after falling 4-3 last night. And every game, yes, I watch them because I'm a loyal fan. Vote as often as you want at XB Mornings. How'd your Daily Wager do? Did you get a win?
Yeah, the Daily Wager did hit yesterday. So I picked Sam Merrill to make 2 3-pointers. He made 3 last night. So he's stuck with that trend of staying high. I mean, with what he did to the Pistons in Game 7, I felt like there was no way he wasn't going to make at least 2. So good to see that he came through. Unfortunately for him, his team did not finish the job. But today,
what do you got today? I mean, you get the Tigers game taking place tonight against Cleveland. It's a bullpen game. You've got Oklahoma City hosting San Antonio in Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals, and you have Game 1 of the NHL's Western Conference Finals. The Colorado Avalanche hosting the Las Vegas Golden Knights.
I'm a big stats guy when it comes to betting, but I went through them today and I just couldn't pick anything I liked more than Oklahoma City -6.5. I think they get it even tonight, and I think they do the job without leaving much questions. That's my guess. It's more of a field pick, but I just can't see this team going down 2-0 in the series. So
all right,
I'll pick them to win.
That's the Daily Wager brought to you by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort and their sportsbook Ascend. Check that out today. It is a fabulous place to go watch games. You want multiple games on tonight. You need multiple TVs. Ascend is the place to go. You'll be able to watch the Tigers take on the Guardians, San Antonio and Oklahoma City square off, and Denver and Las Vegas all at the same time while enjoying some really good food and some nice cold drinks. Yesterday, I just quickly tweeted, Tigers drop another, this time 4-3 to Cleveland. Detroit with 10 left on base, 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position, 7.5 back, and 9 games under 500. The response was, they have nothing offensively, Shep. Is it time to fire Hinch? Too many inept Tigers hitters. They are unwatchable right now. Look at the bright side. We don't have to watch any more NBA. Let's watch the NFL playoffs. The Tigers are toast. Hope Scuba comes back in time to trade him. Just a poorly constructed team. Too many empty suits for the Tigers. I'm embarrassed. This team is a tough watch. It goes on and on. The is it time to fire Hinch thing is interesting. You don't like Jahmai Jones in the lineup. Me either. You don't like Zach Short at short. Me either. You're tired of Wenzel Perez. Me too. Who takes their place?
Yeah, that's
give me your lineup tonight against Tanner Bybee, who's a right-handed hard tosser, and you could argue is Cleveland's best pitcher. Numbers wise, if you look strictly at numbers, and I know numbers can be very deceiving, I'm not saying he is. Gavin Williams leads them in wins. Tanner Bybee has not gone as deep as they would like, and he's got an elevated ERA of 4. But he's got pretty good stuff. Who's your lineup tonight for the Tigers? Who do you want in there?
Like over the player. I mean,
McGonagall's going to play.
Yeah, you want McGonigal, Riley Green, Colt Keith, Dylan Dingler, even though he's been struggling. Jake Rogers. I'll take Dylan Dingler still and hope that he works his way out of it.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I guess Torkelson hit a home run last night, so maybe you hope that he finds the fire that he found a couple of weeks ago. But your options are limited. Yeah,
right. So that's my point. So if you don't want Spencer Torkelson in there, you don't want to see Zach Short in there, you don't want to see Jahmai Jones in there, you don't want to see Wenzel Perez in there. There's 4 guys. Okay, you're going to have to play somebody because you don't have Carpenter available, you don't have Baez available, you don't have Torres available. So you're going to have to play Hao-Yu Lee. You're going to have to play Gage Workman. You're going to have to play some of those guys. So if McGonigal's at short, Keith should be at second, Torkelson should be at first, Workman should be at third, Dingler behind the plate, Green in left, Vierling in center, Wenzel Perez in right. It's out of need.
Yeah, and
because
the same people that want the call-ups and stuff, like Hao-Yu Lee and Gage Workman, those are call-ups, by the way. Those are guys that were doing good down there. So you're telling me that you're going to grab a couple more that are just going to automatically replace it? I don't understand how people can really blame AJ for that. I understand like some of the frustrations maybe with like what you were talking about, moving McGonigal to third, stuff like that. But like, I just don't understand how.
Here's what you're going to have. You're going to have McKinstry at second, maybe Colt Keith, probably Workman at third, Colt Keith the DH. That's probably what you're going to see. But you'll see Perez in there because it's a lefty against a righty. Maybe Perez goes in center field, McKinstry in right, and you get somebody else at second base. I don't know, man. But my point is you're limited because there's just not that much talent on the roster. Thanks for taking some time with us here on this Wednesday morning. Don't forget the huge show later on today from 3 till 7 here on the Michigan Sports Network. We're back with you tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock. Have a great day, everybody.
Huge here for my good friend Josh Garvey and the team at Dorn, Mayhew, West Michigan. One of the world's top accounting, CPA, and business firms. Our worldwide headquarters are in Troy, Michigan, on the east side of the state. And Josh and his team connect with all the sports fans and businesses across Michigan. They bring you John Beeline on the Huge Show. They bring you Lomas Brown during the Lion season. They are a top shelf team when it comes to growth and understanding what their clients need. And mix in when we do the Beat Huge contests or the NCAA March Madness brackets. Thank you, Josh Garvey, for what you do for the Huge Show and the Michigan Sports Network. Simple and easy. Just find Dorn Mayhew on all the social networks or just Google Dorn Mayhew and find out how they can help your business. And again, a special thanks to Josh Garvey and the Dorn Mayhew team in West Michigan.